Hi, I'm Mayor Ballard. Indianapolis is a city that cherishes diversity and equality of opportunity. As proud as we are of our city, we know that even great cities can be better. Our community is made up of many types of people from different cultures and perspectives. Did you know that 20% of our fellow residents communicate, move, respond, or learn differently than the other 80% of the population? Over 200,000 of our friends, family members, colleagues, and neighbors are part of this culture. One of the challenges we face as a community is learning how to be comfortable in interacting with other cultures. In doing so, we must respect and be aware of the perceptions and experiences of others. The Mayor's Advisory Council on Disability created this video to open a meaningful dialogue about how our community can work together so that everyone has equal access and the opportunity to experience the same freedoms.
We are much more
than our disabilities.
We are individuals with
unique and diverse abilities.
Making assumptions about our abilities.
Leads to stereotyping and misinformation.
Having the choice to take risks,
make mistakes, and fail
is important to us.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay to ask if we need assistance.
We are individuals who live
active, healthy,
independent lives.
We are much more than our disabilities.
I'm a person before I am the disability. I want people to view me as, being normal as everyone else. We never know what normal is, but we're all normal. And just because I have a disability doesn't mean that I can't do things. And in fact, I do a lot of things,
I think that it's really important for those of us and just in the general community to think of people first. Try not to think about people as their disability. My hope is that folks will think of me as James, that father, the good musician, the fun guy, the guy with a good sense of humor. And then, oh yeah, he happens to be a person with a disability.
I am a person with a lot of facets, a lot of different qualities, and I'd like people to know that and to not just see me as a walking disability.
I don't think blindness is my most interesting attribute. I think there are other things that I do that I find more interesting.
That comes out of the desire to be known as a person and not by my diagnosis. I'm not a schizophrenic. I have schizophrenia. But like a schizophrenic would be like from another planet, like planet schizophrenia someplace. So I'm not defined by my illness. Like everyone else, I'm defined by my experiences and what I do and what I'm doing.
Sometimes we see you as a person, you're deaf, or you're in a wheelchair, or you have some other limitation, and your expectation of that person is then lowered. And we overlook their unique gifts. Maybe they are an amazing artist, and they're extremely skilled in math or science, but we tend to overlook that and see just the disability.
We are individuals with unique and diverse abilities.
Even though we might share a diagnosis, we're all different. We're different in how we deal and how with a disability, our coping strategies, how we interact with the world. We're individuals. You can't stereotype us.
We are unique because we do have various abilities.
It is healthy and a beautiful thing that we are part of each other. Attitude, justice, everything is limited if we just see that they are disabled. So we all have so much to offer each other. We are very independent people.
Well, it means that I can do anything that anybody else can do in the community. So I drive and go to the store and go to the post office and be involved in activities in the community just as I did before I was in my wheelchair. It means having a voice. It means having the right to do anything and everything that I would want to do and that everybody else is able to do.
Just like the greater society, it takes all kinds to make a world. So we fit in that world just like everybody else does. Yes, we happen to have a disability, but yes, we also have gifts and capacities that we have to offer to the world.
A lot of people kind of tend to think that, like, they get this kind of thing in their mind, you know, like that all people with autism are a specific way. Some people, I think it's mostly media driven, really. I mean, there's a lot of pressure out there, you know. I mean, you have Rain Man, and, you know, you have other movies like Adam, and you have movies like that, and then people see these movies and they kind of get this idea in their mind that all Aspies are these super geniuses, and then when they meet you and, you know, they sit down and talk to you, you have different obsessions, because really we really all have like little obsessions.
You'd be amazed at what a person with a disability can do. Technology has changed everything. There are so many things that I can do now that maybe in the 50s I would not have been able to do. If I had to carry big, heavy law books, I would not be a lawyer. But now, everything is available at my fingertips. I'm not confined to the wheelchair, I'm freed by the wheelchair. I get out and I do my thing. And, you know, in part that's because I have a wheelchair to get around in.
We're all individuals and we're all capable of doing the same things.
I have a ramp that comes off the side of my van, and so I utilize the little blue lines that are next to handicap parking spots that not everybody is aware of what those uses are, and my ramp drops off into those lines, and oftentimes I've come back to my car to get back in and there have been cars parked in those lines, or a lot of times I'll pull into a handicap spot or pull in to go to park and there is somebody sitting in their car maybe waiting for somebody to come back in, and I'm the first to admit that I wasn't quite aware of those things prior to my injury, that I thought, well, if I just waited into my car and a policeman came wanting me to move, well, I'm there to move if he needs me to move, and that it was more of a legal thing instead of being more aware that people with disabilities actually need these spots.
Making assumptions about our abilities leads to stereotyping and misinformation.
I learn slower than other people, but I do catch on. And sometimes people don't understand disabilities until they meet the person.
When you have a disability, a mental or emotional disability, I think that people stereotype you as rather as fragile, and they kind of handle you with kid gloves. I've had people in the past who've been very cautious with me, and you know, afraid that I would crumble or you know, not be able to handle things. And I think it was a surprise to them when I did.
I feel that there are a lot of stereotypes that come with being in a wheelchair and having a disability. An assumption that all of us are the same. Often I've gone to a restaurant to be seated, and if I'm with my husband or with a friend, they'll speak to my husband or my friend, but they won't look at me to ask if I need a table or a booth. It's more, does she need, can she, which feels terrible.
It's still very common for me to be out in a restaurant with a friend or my wife, and the waiter or waitress ask the person that I'm with what I would like to drink or what I would like to eat, and you know, most of my friends are obnoxious enough to state, I have no idea. Maybe you should ask him. So, and where I would typically just answer the question and allow them to figure it out the next time, and they pick it up really quickly usually. But that still happens regularly. It's not just a rare occurrence anymore.
Making assumptions that people need to get out of my way when I'm coming. I've been in the mall where there's a little more heavier traffic, and parents seem to snatch their kids to get them out of my way, because it's normal for kids to be curious. It's normal for them to stop and stare because it's different. It's something they're not used to. But when a parent snatches a child away from me, it communicates to the child that I'm not someone that they should approach, that I'm not someone that just like everybody else, that they can stop and be children. I love it when kids come up to me and ask, well, why are you in a wheelchair? Why don't your legs work?
Well, I think an important thing to keep in mind is that for many persons who are recovering from mental illness, they have experiences that are slightly different than most of the population. A lot of persons with a diagnosis experience things that are related to hallucinations or delusions. So their life experiences are a little bit different, and in some cases it causes people to respond a little bit different to normal things. I think a lot of times the image that we have of someone with a mental illness is the man or a woman who's shabbily dressed, and they're walking down the city street either cursing at the sky or shouting at the ground, or obviously talking to something or someone that none of the rest of us can see, and it's hard to understand what that person is doing. You know, in that particular moment, they're responding to reality as they see it.
It's like, as humans, sometimes we feel the need to properly categorize things. In the house, we have a place for books. We have a place for our shoes. We have a place for our clothes. If we had a pair of pants that was attached to some shoes, we'd get confused. And that's what it's like when people see people with disabilities. They see a pair of pants attached to some shoes and they feel like they got to put them in their own category.
When people make assumptions that blind people have a sixth sense, or because they can hear better and they have a sense of touch that is magnified way more than ours is because we can see. All of those assumptions are basically myths. It is not true.
My other senses are limited to my physical ability and human ability. They are, my hearing, for example, probably is no better than anyone else who has good hearing. Fortunately, my hearing works well, but it is not on a measurable scale and any better than anyone else's. What differentiates my hearing, or the way that I hear, than people who have sight, is that I pay attention to it. I use it more than they do. And the other part of that, too, is being able to identify events or activity based on sound. Being able to know that, walking up to a building, the very identifiable sound that a revolving door makes versus a normal swinging door makes, it's very important information to me, because I cannot take a quick glance at it and know that there's a revolving door. I have to listen to those audio cues.
And when you make that assumption about blind people, about blindness and the tragedy of blindness, it's such a shame that he lost his vision. You can't do anything in the world anymore. You can't work, or you can't participate in society. It must be horrible. Well, on the surface, you may think that, but I believe that the real tragedy of blindness is the misunderstanding and misperception that people have about blindness and blind people. They think we have, that since we're blind, we have the inability to do participate in society when I think that given proper training, changing attitudes, you can, quote, do as much in society or participate as much as you want to. Blindness should not define us as who we are as a person. It's just a part of us.
If I share what happened in my accident, that they are very quick to say, I'm so sorry that happened. I'm so sorry. Or if someone has a broken foot, or someone has their back is really sore and they'll be complaining about it, and they'll say, I'm really sorry, none of this compares to what you've been through. And I hate that, because whatever they're going through is real. Everybody deals with something, and just because mine looks like it would be worse doesn't mean that I suffer more.
You know, I would encourage folks to do their best to refrain from you know, trying to put yourself in someone's shoes with a disability, or somebody's shoes who is visually impaired. I think it's a natural tendency for us folks as human beings to try to think to ourselves, well, if I were visually impaired, I don't think I could do that. Or if I were using a wheelchair, I don't think I could do that. And chances are somebody who's visually impaired or somebody who uses a wheelchair has already figured out a number of ways of doing that given task.
Having the choice to take risks, make mistakes, and fail is important to us.
Very important. That's how we all grow and become better people. And we recognize their limitations in thinking or education. I could say something inappropriate, and then I have to learn from that mistake. And I've learned that on the Mayor's Advisory Council. We have gifts and things that each individual person has, and they don't want to be called disabled or limited. They don't want that to be applied to them. And if I assume that, I have made a mistake, and I need to be open-minded and see a beautiful person beyond what the image I have connected in my past to that disability or person. I have to have new ideas, and in deaf culture, it is very complex, and you make mistakes, you fail. And that's how I want to grow. I don't want to be stuck where I'm at.
To learn certain things in life, you really have to be able to experience it. I mean, no one, it's just like the old saying goes, I mean, no one can just tell you how to fish. You can read all the books in the world about fishing, you know, but unless you've actually gone out and tried and failed and tried and failed, you really will never know what it's like. So making mistakes is an important part of being human.
I can do a lot more than I think what people think I can do, and I often want to do a lot more than what people think I should want to do. And if there's something that I can't do, I will make a way, figure out a way to try to do it. It might look really different than how other people do something, but figuring out a way to do whatever it is that I can do is really important to me. And it's important for me to have a chance to fail or to make mistakes, just like an able-bodied person would, or anyone in the community. For example, at work, there's a database system that I had to learn, and you know, by learning it and entering things in and doing things wrong and trying to figure it out and having the same feedback, same consequences, same results as anyone else that would work at my place of employment is really important to me. That just because I have a disability and have to do things a little bit differently doesn't mean that I should be treated any different than anybody else. And to have that makes me feel like everybody else and makes me feel respected just like everybody else. And
I have learned a lot through my failures. And if I hadn't had those opportunities, I wouldn't have learned what I know. In regards to mental illness and my experiences with the negative part during the years when I was very ill, I had an opportunity to learn a lot about myself as a person through the mistakes that I made. Like, at one point, I decided that I would, some years ago, I would quit my job, go to California, go to Los Angeles, and become a very successful stand-up comic. So I quit my job, gave away everything, and took off for the West Coast. Well, that was a pretty bad decision. You know, I didn't even know anybody out there. I didn't even know where I was going. And actually, that's what precipitated a period of homelessness that lasted for about 18 or 20 months. Learning about the decisions and my sense of judgment was a real learning process, and some of those failures really helped to reinforce what I needed to learn about myself and my abilities, my limits. You know, I think that we need to fail, that we need to have a sense of what we can do and what we can't do.
When a person with a disability doesn't succeed at whatever the particular thing they're trying to succeed at, people feel like, oh my God, it's tragic, that person should have been able to do that. Well, why? Because we're blind, like I gave it earlier. Should I be able to sing because I'm blind? Because we all know that Stevie Wonder can sing and Ray Charles can sing and all of those are blind, Jose Feliciano. Well, should I be able to sing like them? Of course not. They're individuals who were given a gift of singing. I cannot sing, but I can teach cane travel to blind people. I can run a business, and I've been doing it for over 25 years. Those are the things that, you know, we need to have the public understand that we have a right to fail. We have a right to reinvent ourselves, and we have a right to succeed at things we try in life, and we have a right not to succeed.
I think that you can't really achieve all the great things that you want to if you don't take risks. And so if I'm told, oh no, don't do that, you have a disability, don't try to go away to school, you need to stay at home and work from home and do all that, then I wouldn't be able to achieve what I'm doing. So I don't want to have these barriers put in front of me in the name of protection.
I can do a lot of things, like especially if I'm told ahead of time how to do it. I also learn from my mistakes and do better the next time.
It's okay to ask if we need assistance.
When you have what's called an invisible disability, a disability related to mental illness or emotional illness, sometimes people can't really see that unless you tell them. And so we who have invisible disabilities there's more pressure on us to ask when we need help and to let people know when we feel safe that we are dealing with this and that we might need some assistance, and this is the way that you could help us.
I like people to assist me with different things, but I like to be asked, how to be assisted instead of just, coming up to me and, wanting to push me around if I'm in my wheelchair. We should ask people with disabilities how we can assist them or how, we can help them.
I really appreciate it when someone asks me if I need assistance, if they see that I'm struggling. And then sometimes folks will offer assistance even if they don't see that I'm struggling, but they just want to help. And I understand that there's this need inside of me that I really want to help. And I realize that's the way it is for most folks out there. They want to help out. So it's okay to ask if I need help. If I don't, I'll say no, thank you. But if I do, I'll say great. And then I'll kind of say, well, could I grab your arm and you can kind of guide me up to the doorway? Or can I just follow behind you? Can you talk with me as you're walking up to the doorway?
If a person is not comfortable with it, the thing that I guess they can do is just say, how may I be of assistance to you? Because quite frankly, I've had a lot of times I would walk to a corner and somebody think I may want to cross that street, and I'm not necessarily wanting to cross the street. I'm standing on the corner. I could be waiting on someone. This happened to me the other day. I could be waiting on someone, and inevitably somebody wants to grab me by the hand and push me in front of them like a shield and go and send me and take me across the street. One, they don't know how to lead a blind person, and two, I didn't want to cross the street. So
just ask. I would say walking around the streets of downtown on a 10-15 minute walk, I would say on average probably half the time I'm asked whether I need assistance crossing the street. Probably only 5 or 10% of the time I actually need it, but almost every time I accept it. And the reason I do is because of that 10% of time that I do need assistance. The one time that the offer of assistance can be a hindrance is I guess in the way that they offer. If I am halfway across the street and someone grabs, my arm without asking, without saying anything, with all good intention, it can be disruptive at best. One, I don't know why they're grabbing my arm. It could be to take my wallet, or it could be to alert me of the curb coming up. And secondly, when I'm crossing the street with traffic and a lot of noise, it's something that I do need to concentrate on. And if I'm disrupted, if my concentration is disrupted in that process, then it can make it more difficult.
I appreciate that people ask me how it is that they can best help me. If there's a specific thing that I've asked for help for them to ask, how is it that I can help you with that, is preferred rather than jumping in assuming that they know how it is that they can help me.
We are individuals who live active, healthy, independent lives.
I've been blind now for over 30 years, and I'm married to another blind woman. And we have kids, and they're grown and have families on their own now. And we own a home, and we own a rental property, and I have 2 businesses. She has a third business. We travel a lot. We do, quote, the normal things that everybody else does. We're living the dream for the most part. So, and we happen to be blind. Now, if I would have told that story without qualifying that we were blind, then everybody would have thought, oh, well, you're doing fine as a, quote, average citizen. Well, but when I put the word blindness in there, then people think, oh my God, you guys are amazing. Well, we're not amazing. We're just everyday average people who work hard, who live life, who travel, who have families.
It really is of benefit for me to be able to help others, to use my own past to relate to where other people are now and to help them. I really believe that my life would be much more difficult if I didn't have the opportunity to use my past in a constructive way.
I think so much of helping others to see that I can be a productive person is to do that. Just go out, be a productive person. I'm a homeowner. I participate in activities with my family. I'm always at my son's, every baseball game my son has and I can possibly attend, I am there. Even though I can't see him hitting the ball, I hear him hitting the ball.
I think that the way that I've let people know that I'm capable of living a productive life is by living a productive life. I think that by my example, I've sort of broken a lot of barriers in people's attitudes. Unfortunately, the way our society is, people with disabilities feel they have a lot to prove. And so if you hire somebody with a disability, you're going to find that they're going to prove themselves very well because they want to prove that they're just as good as the next guy, maybe better, and the disability isn't going to stop them. I'm very happy with my life. I'm very happy with what I'm doing.
Because my life is great, and I am alive. I have people who love me. I went through college. I have a job. I met my husband after my injury, and he loves me for who I am, not because I'm in a wheelchair or because I'm not in a wheelchair.
And we need to recognize the gifts that each person has as a community together, and recognize that we are not stuck with a defect. We are above and beyond that. We are way beyond that.
This video is a production of the City of Indianapolis Mayor's Advisory Council on Disability in collaboration with the Indianapolis Office of Disability Affairs. The Council would like to thank the Children's Museum of Indianapolis for providing the use of its parking facilities, Samantha Cross of Indigo for providing narration, and the video participants for sharing their stories and time. If you would like to learn more about disability culture and how you can be part of Indianapolis's commitment to inclusion and diversity, contact the Indianapolis Office of Disability Affairs at 317-327-3798.